In this video, we'll continue discussing the General Ledger module, Session 2. In the previous session, we discussed the basic setups and the basic prerequisites for the General Ledger module to be implemented. This session is also intended for the accounting staff and the CFOs or managers and for new Aria users. The prerequisites are the General Ledger module has to be installed and set up on your system. You have also to have attended the GL module basic session, number 1, and a basic background knowledge in the accounting is recommended. The course outcome of this class will be learn how to input single transactions and the usage of single transactions in the GL, release to GL, how to inquire and edit journal batches, how to post batches and transactions, common GL reports, and finally we will discuss the financial statements and different standard financial reports. Now we'll discuss our very first item in this session, which is how to input a single transaction. The single transaction in the GL is actually useful in case if you want to enter a manual transaction for any reason, like for example the end of the month, adjustment and corrections, any transactions that is not related to a source module. For example, if you'd like to enter the payroll entry for the end of the month or any other expenses that are not sourced from other different modules. To enter a single transaction in the GL, go to Transactions, General Ledger, then Single Transaction option. Start off by adding a new record into the single transaction. Today's date will populate by default. You can change that to the appropriate date that you would like your transaction to post to. Confirm the date. Then you can add any additional reference or description to your transactions. Next is to select your source journal if applicable. As we discussed in the previous session, the source journal is a helpful tool to classify your GL entry or journal entry by the source journal so you can run and analyze reports accordingly. Then finally, after you are done with the basic information, click on Entries to start adding your single transaction. Simply click New and either type in or select from the chart of account your account code that you would like to either debit or credit. So here, let's say I'm going to select petty cash account. I'm going to debit the petty cash with this amount. And I'm going to put a comment or a note for that GL entry. For my transaction, so I can remember or I can see it in the report what it was related to. I continue by adding a new line, so I can add as many lines as I want within one single transaction, either debit or credit. Same thing, I can either type in my chart of account code or I can browse it from the list to either debit or credit the appropriate GL account number. So here I'm going to credit the Chase Bank account with 1200 and I'll put a note or a comment with my GL transaction. So you follow through the process by adding new lines, either debit and credit, until you finish all your entire GL or journal entries within that single transaction. When you are done, you save and the system will assign the transaction number. Once a transaction number is created, it's usually saved in the system in unposted status. So we'll see later on how to post either transactions or batches to make them affect into or to take effect into the trial balance. Our next topic will discuss the release to GL, what does it do, and how to perform the release to GL. As we mentioned briefly in the previous session, the GL module is the core or the final destination of any accounting record or any accounting transaction. So it summarizes and consolidates all the transactions initiated by the sales module, by the invoicing, by the accounts payable, or by the inventory. So the release to GL simply consolidates all these records, all these source transactions, and send it to the general ledger module in a summarized way in order to start posting them to your financial report and to your trial balance. So to release to GL, you need to go to Transaction, System Manager module, then Release to GL option. Your active company will be selected by default. You can furthermore select what modules or what source module you would like to select in order to be released to the GL. As we mentioned briefly, 4 modules normally affect your GL: the material inventory, the finished goods inventory module, the accounts receivable, and the accounts payable. So you can eliminate or narrow down any module that you do not want to release to GL at this point. By default, all the 4 different source modules will be released to GL. When you are ready, click Proceed. Then the system will give you the option to print a posting register report in detail or summary format. The posting register is an important report that gives you a provisional balances of how much amount per each category or per each account will be released to the GL. So it's very important to print and review and probably keep a copy of that post-register report. So this way you know that during this release to GL session, these were the expected numbers to be posted to the accounts receivable, to the inventory, to the accounts payable, and so on. Once you print the posting register and you are ready to release, continue by confirming to proceed. And here the system will perform further validation in order to make sure all the accounts and all the GL entries are balanced and going to a valid account. If for any reason an account in the source entry or in the source module was invalid or the transaction was out of balance for any reason, the system will detect that and will give you this warning message in order to move the incorrect amount or the invalid account number. It will be moved to the suspense account. So you have here the choice either to cancel the whole process or to continue by simply letting the system use the suspense account. The release process will continue, and once it's done, it will give you a prompt that the release has been successfully completed. So that means that now all the source module transactions have been released to the GL and the appropriate GL batch number is created. Once the release to GL process is finished, you can inquire the generated journal batches by going to Transactions, General Ledger, Batches, Journal Batch. If you inquire the journal batch screen, you will be able to browse and see the GL batches that have been created as an outcome of the release process. The system will create those batches in unposted status until you perform the posting, as we'll see later in the session. So in that browse, you can see what date, what posting date range this batch belongs to, when it was created in the system, what is the total debit and the total credit of that batch, what is the source module it's coming from. Is it coming from IC or inventory control, accounts receivable, purchase order, or accounts payable? So the source module is very important because it lets you know where the system created this amount or this journal batch from. If you'd like to inquire in details any of the generated journal batch, simply highlight it and press enter. The system will show you the totals of this batch, and you can simply review it, or you can see the detailed transaction under that batch. So if I drill down here to the transaction screen, I will be able to see what was the source entries of that specific journal batch. So here that's obviously an inventory related batch. It debits the inventory on water account, and it credits or debits the finished goods inventory, and it credits the inventory on water or work in process. So by looking to that screen, I can tell what was the affected GL account and what was the related amount number, as well as the source module it came from. There's other features here. You can post individually that batch if you would like to. So if you verified it and everything is good to go and you're ready to post, you can simply post on the fly that specific batch number. Or as we will see in a minute later in the session, we can post several batches together in group instead of doing that one by one. Once you verify your single transactions or journal batches and you are confirming that you'd like to post these transactions to your trial balance and thus affect your trial balance reports and the financial statement, you can perform the posting process by going to Transactions, General Ledger, Posting menu, and there you can perform the posting to any of these type of transaction, either single transaction, journal batch, or beginning balance batch. If I would like to post single transaction, I select Post Single Transaction. A list of transactions will show up that are waiting or still in unposted status, so I can approve individually or I can approve all. So if I would like to approve anything in this list, I simply click Approve All, or I can approve individual transaction to be posted. You will be able to see additional summary of the information contained on each transaction, like the total debit, the total credit, the date the transaction will post to, and the source journal that you selected in that transaction. Once you verify everything and you're ready to post, click the Post button, confirm, and here the system will give you a recap of the transactions that have been posted to your trial balance. Once this process is completed, the transaction status will be marked as posted, and the trial balance for each account will be affected either with the debit or with the credit total included in this transaction. Likewise, if I want to post journal batches that are released to the GL from the other source module, I go to Journal Batch. The screen will open up listing all the available unposted status journal batches, and it will indicate the source module or the SM where it came from. And likewise, like what we did with the single transaction, I can approve individual batches to be posted, or I can approve all of them to be posted, and likewise I can post whatever I approve. So let me say I want to approve only this batch and this batch, so I'll approve this individually. Same thing like in single transaction, you can see summary information about the batch, what was the total debit, the total credit of this batch, the date or the period it belongs to, and the reference or the description of that batch. So let me approve some other batches that I would like to post. Once I finish with my selection and approval, I click Post, Confirm, and the system will perform the process of posting, where the batch status will be marked as posted, and any account affected or any account included in these batches will be updated with the new balance, and your trial balance would be ready to print, including these transactions. In the next topic, we'll discuss the different GL reports and outputs that you can run from the system. To run any report related to the general ledger, go to Output menu, General Ledger, and then you will have 3 different sub-menus for your different reports. File listing report will generally have basic reports, simply listing your chart of account, for example, listing your budget information, account groups, and so on and so forth. So let's take a look on the chart of account report. It's available in 2 formats, detail or summary. We'll see the summary format, for example. Here you can put an optional title for the report. You can narrow down your selection by any of these criteria, like if you'd like to select a specific account group or a specific account code or codes that you'd like to print. All these are available filters that you would like, that you can use to narrow down your search criteria and accordingly run the report. So let us see how the report looks like. So this is a sample of the chart of account report. It's sorted by the group, like current assets, fixed assets, etc. All the groups that we have set up in the beginning in the types and range screen. Then it will list each and every account number and its description and the status of the account, either active or inactive. So it's a simple report that you can use as a reference of your master chart of account codes and names. So that's a simple report. Other reports available under the file listing is the budget version report, and this is a good report if you would like, or if you use the budget screen and you would like to have a record or a printed copy of your budget format, either summary or detail. Detail is normally recommended. Same way, you can put an optional name or an optional title for that report. You can narrow down your search for a specific budget code or for a specific budget year. When you are done with your criteria, print, preview, or print the report. And that will give you the budget version number for the specific fiscal year that you selected, along with all the budget amount by period, by account for the selected budget code. Other reports available in the General Ledger module, which usually commonly used, is the account reconciliation report. So we'll go to Output menu, General Ledger, Transaction, and there we can run the account reconciliation report. The account reconciliation report comes in 2 different versions, either the posted transaction or the unposted entries or unposted transaction. It's the same exact format. The only difference, it depends on the timing of when you run your account reconciliation. If you would like to run it before you post the journal batches or the single transaction, then you need to run the account reconciliation unposted entry. If you already posted your GL single transaction and journal batches like what we did during the session, then I need to run the regular version of the account reconciliation. Like any other report, You can put an optional title for the report. Summarization, you can summarize by any of these options, or in other words, the system will sort out the records in the report by one of these options, by account date, by account source journal, or by account source journal and date. You can narrow down your search for a specific period range from and to, so you can decide your date range from to. So this is the activity date or the period range that you'd like to run your activities through. Zero activity account either include or exclude. So if you do not want to include zero activity accounts, you can do that. You can exclude. You can select the fiscal year for which the system will search the activities for, and you can also select your period ID, which can in that case will substitute the days. So instead of selecting from and to dates, you can select the period ID from and to. Other options to filter by are also important. You can filter by the account group, by the account type, or you can select a specific account code from your chart of account to print the report only for that specific account code. So let me select that account and now print preview the report. So this will be the layout of the account reconciliation report, sorted by account number, by date, and by source journal, depending on the option that you select. It will simply list each period and each transaction, the debit or the credit amount, the net change, and the closing balance for that period. So as you can see, that report is only for one account for a range of periods. Next topic, we'll see how to print or preview the financial statements from the general ledger output. So same way, we'll go to output menu, general ledger, then financial submenu. And there will be actually two groups of reports available, either for the balance sheet reports or for the income statement. In addition to that, you can print from here the trial balance report. So let's start off with showing the trial balance report. Trial balance comes in one of these three different layouts or formats: normal format, worksheet 170, or worksheet 137. So depending on the paper layout that you would like to see, you can use the proper format. However, the source of the information is the same in all the three cases. Like any other report in the GL, you can stamp an optional title for the report. So when you print it out, you can have this as a comment or as a title for your report. Include or exclude zero activities. Round to, if you would like to round to hundreds, to thousands, to 100,000, or the default is to none, meaning just simply print the normal number. Fiscal year, you select your fiscal year where to run your trial balance for. And finally, you can select the period range from and to what month you would like your trial balance to run for. Lastly, you can narrow down your report by specific account group or by specific account number. So now let's preview the report. So let's revise the period date range that we would like to run the trial balance for, and then print preview. And here the system will show you all the accounts, excluding the zero account, because we selected to exclude zero account activities. and it will list each account for each of the period range or for each of the periods selected, the account name, the beginning balance, total debit for that period for that account, total credit, and the ending balance. So as you can see, it will list all the accounts that you have in your chart of account by period, and it will list the beginning balance for each period, debit, credit, and ending balance. Now we'll discuss an overview of the available financial statement like the income statement or the balance sheet reports. So we'll start by discussing the income statement reports. There's several different report formats and different report outcome of the income statement. However, the source of the information, as we mentioned, is the same. It depends on your trial balance and the fiscal year and the fiscal period you select. So there is actual versus budget. There is actual versus other period budget comparison report. There is total company, either period to date or year to date. And as you can see, there are several different formats of income statement reports that can let you compare your budget numbers to your actual numbers. So let's start with total company period to date or year to date. That's one of the most common and simple report. Like any other GL report, you can put an optional title for your report. You can select your fiscal year and your fiscal period. You can select as well to run your reports year to date or period to date. So if you would like to see only the current period, select PTD. If you'd like to run accumulated balance year to date, so select YTD or year to date. Summarization is very important option. This option is available across all the GL reports and the financial statements to let you summarize by any level, by the main account type, by the sub-account type, or by the account number. Also here you can select to show if you are showing each and every individual account, you can select at which segment level you can summarize your numbers or your balances to. So you can summarize only for the main account, or you can show the main account and the sub-account depending on your account code structure. So here I'm gonna see a detailed report. It's on the account level, so I do not want to summarize. Include or exclude zero balances, so you can say yes or no to either exclude zero balance or include them. And you can narrow down your search by any other parameter like the account group code and so on. Once you are done with your criteria selection, print preview the report. And based on the fiscal year and the fiscal period that you selected, the system will gather and summarize your expenses, your revenues, and your subtotal of expense, net income, and net income after taxes as a regular income statement report. As we mentioned, there are several formats of the income statement. For instance, you can run actual versus budget comparison. So that report, for instance, can let you compare your current fiscal year to your budget number for the selected budget code. So here the system will let you select a fiscal year and a fiscal period. Then you will select a budget code that you would like to compare your actual balances against. Then, as like other report, all these options are available across the board, either year to date or period to date. Summarization option, either you want to summarize on the main account group, the sub-account group, or the individual account level. So summarization is typically, as we mentioned, available in any reports in the GL. So let us see here what we need to do. We need to enter optional title and column 2 budget year. So I'm going to put 2013 for the budget. And also I want to run it up to period 5. So that report, as it appears from the title, it compares actual balances by period, by year, against the budget number for the same period and for the same fiscal year. So if there is any variation or if there is any balances, the system will give you a comparison between your budget and between your actual balance and the percentage or the ratio of the difference between the two columns side by side. Last topic we'll discuss today in the general ledger output is the balance sheet report, and this is also available under output, under general ledger financial. Balance sheet reports come with different formats for various purposes like actual versus budget comparison, actual period comparison, actual versus other period budget, two budget column comparison if you'd like to compare two different budgets for the same fiscal year, total company, which is the actual balance for the current company for the current or the selected fiscal year. And all of these reports, we will not have time to view all of them in today's session, but I'm sure it's self-explanatory, and once you view the report, you'll be able to know what's the content of that report is. So optional title, as we mentioned in all other reports, then fiscal year, which fiscal year that you would like to run the report for, period, and do you want to put a specific name for the net income line description? That's a user-defined description for the net income line. Summarization, likewise, like other reports in the GL, you can summarize on the main category, on the subcategory, or on the account level. And you can exclude zero balances, yes or no, if you would like to exclude zero balances, or to narrow down your report to a specific account group code. So let us see how this balance sheet report looks like. This is the main category, assets, then the subcategory, current assets. Then, since we did not choose to summarize, it will list each and every account under your current assets along with the related balance, either debit or credit. Then I give you a subtotal for each account group, for current assets, for fixed assets, for liabilities, and so on and so forth. So this way you can have a balance sheet report with your total net income and total assets and liabilities. One important feature in the new Aria4XP reports, and this is a global feature available in any report, that you can now export the data to Excel. So if you click on Export Report, you will be able to export the report to different formats, PDF format or Excel format. So if I simply want to extract the outcome of the balance sheet, the income statement, or the trial balance report, I can use this icon to export the report to Excel. And once I have the information exported to Excel, that's actually a great tool to let you further analyze and sort or reformat your information in the way that you like. So here you go. As you can see, the Excel sheet will have the exact information that showed in the report in Aria. So you can furthermore, as we mentioned, reformat or resort the information within Excel. So in this session, we discussed the following points. We learned how to input single transactions, and we saw how to manually create a GL or a general entry for any purpose. We discussed what the release to GL does and how to release to GL from the different modules. We learned how to inquire or edit the journal batches released. We discussed how to post batches or single transactions. And we saw the common general ledger reports like chart of account report, account reconciliation report, and the financial statement reports, income statement, or balance sheet.